Something shocking is going to take place next week in Westminster, but because it fits the agenda of the political establishment, the Blob and the MSM, no one is calling it out. The Privileges Committee witch hunt against Boris Johnson, the last Prime Minister elected by the people, will explode into public view at 2 p.m. on Wednesday, as he is questioned live on a TV broadcast in a kangaroo court designed to finish off his political career. Allies of Dominic Cummings, Rishi Sunak and the Labour opposition are united in finally defeating the one man who they know has the ability to beat Keir Starmer at the next election. But this process is, in my opinion, corrupt. The hyper-partisan committee chairwoman, Harriet Harman, has already publicly tweeted that Boris was lying over Partygate, so her mind was made up long before the inquiry began. And we now know the Partygate report itself was written by no other than Sue Gray, the apparently impartial civil servant who Keir Starmer is employing as his new chief of staff. You couldn't make it up. So why on earth will slippery Starmer not reveal when the conversations between him and Ms Gray about her future role began?
Did you first approach Sue Gray to be your chief of staff?
Nick, I know her personally. I met her when I was Director of Public Prosecution.
Might I ask when you first approached her to be your chief of staff?
I've been on the lookout for a chief of staff for a little while now.
So when did you approach? Can I ask when you approached Sue?
Look,
if I may call her Sue?
I've been looking for a chief of staff for a number of weeks now.
I will try again, and obviously you don't have to answer, but when did you first contact Sue Gray about the possibility of becoming your chief of staff?
Well, Nick, that's going to be laid out by Sue.
But you can't tell me that.
Nick, nothing improper at all.
The whole thing stinks of a stitch-up. Because if Boris is found in contempt, he could be suspended or even kicked out of the House of Commons following a recall position, ending his dream of returning to number 10. But tonight, a significant intervention. The former Home Secretary, Priti Patel, becomes the most senior political ally of Boris Johnson to speak out against the witch hunt in an exclusive interview on this show to be broadcast in the next hour. But here's a preview.
Issues around Keir Starmer, Sue Gray, all these types of things, they're not happening in isolation. My views around what has happened, are pretty well documented now as well. I think actually it's going to put our democracy in a very, very bad light. How can a handful of members of parliament and a committee, really be that objective in light of some of the individual comments that have been made? I don't want to name people, but, it is a fact. The lack of transparency, the lack of accountability. I think there is a culture of collusion, quite frankly. I really hope your viewers, should they watch, and they are obviously following everything that's happened, they will start pressing and asking some serious questions, because we'll be doing the same here.
Yeah, so I say corruption, she says collusion, something seriously wrong. Then there's the question of why Boris is facing this stitch-up rather than the current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who, it is conveniently forgotten by the Boris haters, was also living and working at Downing Street as the parties went on, and also received the same fixed penalty notice as Boris for the same afternoon birthday cake presentation. Now, I don't think either of these two should have received a fixed penalty notice, but I just want to compare and contrast to make a point. These are the comments Boris is being hauled over the coals for making in the House on December the 1st, 2021.
What I can tell the right honourable gentleman is that all guidance was followed completely during number 10.
But what about when Rishi Sunak said this on the 7th of December 2021?
Will the Chancellor categorically deny in the House that he or any of his officials or SPADs attended any of the Downing Street Christmas parties on the 27th of November or the 18th of December last year?
Chancellor?
No, Mr. Speaker, I did not attend any parties.
Now, let me be very clear. I don't believe Sunak should be facing the Privileges Committee either. But the fact the current PM has been spared while the full force of the Westminster blob is behind finishing off the former one tells you all you need to know here. Make no mistake, Next Wednesday's session is part of the anti-democratic coup to depose Boris Johnson and, they hope, finish his political career forever. For the sake of democracy, it must fail.